Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and if you are just tuning in, we've been talking with the Elizabeth Fry Society. I'm here with Mary, and Mary, one of the coordinators at the Elizabeth Fry Society, and of course, Mary Veltri, who's the president on the board of directors, all about the great work that the Elizabeth Fry Society does here in the community. And we left off and we were talking about a lot of the programs, and as I mentioned, you mentioned volunteers many times. So let's talk about like volunteers and their skill sets and how long people have kind of been with you and those kind of things.
We have a roster of approximately 27 volunteers. I say 27 because it varies as we're doing different programming rather, and that includes just volunteers on the program side of it, in addition to a board of directors.
Mm-hmm. And how did these volunteers get involved? So are they just interested in helping women who have, been in the prison system, or?
Many of them bring very unique skills, a very unique focus on assisting women who have and are incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. I think, the volunteers come to us through a variety of methods. A lot of people come just through word of mouth. And there are people who are looking to do volunteer work, and they see that, who are the most vulnerable in our society, and they really want to help out. The other thing that brings volunteers is when they hear about the other volunteers who go out to the prison, they are enthusiastic, because there is something that is really quite rewarding about doing this kind of work. The women at the correctional center are so incredibly grateful. Mm-hmm. When we first started going out there, they were sort of surprised, like, you mean you just come here for free and you just do this to help us? Like, they were just really humble about it. And
many of them have had some difficulty in maintaining and connecting with individuals in the community, so this really helps to reinforce that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And are you always looking for volunteers, or?
We always are looking for volunteers, and very often some people will say, I don't have a lot of time, but I could volunteer in a specific event, or I'd like to do something. I'd like to hold a book drive. I'm part of a club in the community and would like to dedicate some resources. So we're always looking for those types of volunteers as well.
Mm-hmm. And is there any kind of certain criteria or things that you're looking for when somebody wants to volunteer?
Because we are working or going largely into the correctional setting, our volunteers are required to have a criminal records check through the Thunder Bay Police Authority.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense for sure. So I know we still haven't covered all the programs, so let's talk more about those.
So maybe we'll go back and we talked a little bit about some of the volunteer-based programs in the correctional center, but one of the biggest components of my work as the coordinator is what's called jail visitation, and that is going and meeting with the women individually in collaboration with the rehabilitation and social workers who are at the correctional center to look at discharge planning. It's a huge, very complicated component. It's like putting tentacles out in the community, looking at different areas. Where's the person going to live when they are released? What kind of supports are they going to require? And very often, because people have been incarcerated for such a long period of time, that it's very difficult to make those connections. Mm-hmm. So it's very much part of that community plan.
Yeah, and I think just even to integrate back into regular society, right, has to be a challenge. And then even to find a job, when you've got that as kind of your background, is there any kind of programming that helps women with job skills, or?
I'm very happy that you've asked that, Sharla, because that's been certainly an area of focus for us, is delivering some unique programs that are skill-based. So always looking at what will the women derive from this when they're back in the community. So last year, or in 2016, we partnered with the health unit to offer a safe food handling program. Over a 2-day period. A health inspector came in, The women, much like taking the course in the community, did the course content and passed an exam to obtain the safe food handling. And for many, it's the desire to either run a home-based business, or it may help open up different areas. So again, backed by popular demand, we'll be offering that program again next month. So we're always looking to develop skill-based programs with other community agencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And any other programs that we haven't talked about?
So we've spoken a little bit also about public education, and that's something that the Elizabeth Fry Society has with many of the other Elizabeth Frys throughout Canada during what's called E-Fry Week. Take some issues to the public and offer public education sessions so the community is aware of particular issues pertaining to women who are incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
One of the things we do during Elizabeth Fry Week, which coincides with Mother's Day, it's usually the second week of May, is we have library displays. So throughout Thunder Bay, we'll put up information materials and posters just to describe the kinds of services we're doing, and again, as Mary said, to educate the public about the issues that women are facing. One of the things that we know and we hear about in the news all the time is that there is an over-incarceration or over-representation of Indigenous people in our jail system. And we are aware of what those underlying reasons are, and we're trying to address those reasons, supporting alternatives to prison and programs that are diversion programs. Things like the Glad Do report that will keep people out of prison so that they can integrate into the community and deal with the underlying issues instead of being punished for the things that they were victim to because of the history of colonization.
Right.
So we do try to bring those issues to the attention of the public. Sometimes we're doing talks with the public library or at other venues. And then we also, during that week, we have a big event right at the very end. It's a fundraiser. It's called An Evening with Elizabeth Fry and Friends. And we try to, again, do a little bit of public information, but it's an evening of fun. Nice. And it's a silent auction and entertainment.
And the women contribute to the event by producing items that are sold at a silent auction.
Nice.
So this past year we had some beautiful, one of our volunteers, Kathleen Balea, who is an artist and a yoga instructor, did some beautiful copper embossing. So we were able to auction those items off, and again, it's given women that skill. There's incredible talent, and it's looking for ways that the community can see the wealth of skill and talent that the women have.
Yeah, absolutely. And when does that event happen every year? Because we play these, we definitely re-show these throughout the year and stuff like that.
It's the second week of May.
Yeah.
So whenever Mother's Day falls, it culminates in Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'll be sure to get my tickets and go this coming May for sure. But we're going to take another quick break, but we're going to be right back with Mary and Mary and talk about the Elizabeth Fry Society.